Peak human.
Les humains à leur meilleur.
C'est tu apogeo.
Peak 人間
Peak Carnivore.
Hey, welcome back. Thanks for listening and thanks for all the kind words about this podcast. I get tons of messages and emails weekly and the stories are really inspiring. It helps to keep me going and put in the work to find amazing experts and put out a good show. Today we have Alyse Parker, who used to go by RawAlignment. She had a huge vegan following of over 750,000 subscribers on YouTube and hundreds of thousands on Instagram. She did different plant-based diets over the course of about 4 years, including raw vegan, and ended up with some terrible health conditions. I won't give up too much, but she's now eating almost completely animal foods. It's an interesting story and I hope you enjoy it. She's a great person and I'm looking forward to a meetup we'll be having in San Diego on July 24th with her and Paul Saladino. I'll announce that soon so people can RSVP. We have 2 meetups in Toronto coming up. One this Saturday at the world famous Spaducci Mercado with North America's only meat sommelier. We'll have Michaela Peterson, Tara Couture, who's at Slowdown Farmstead on Instagram, my favorite account ever, and Brian Gilvesy, a sustainable farmer and speaker, will be there as our guests of honor. They'll all be saying a few words and hanging out and eating the all-you-can-eat delicious meat and some wine. We'll have the Food Lives team there as well, so grab a ticket on nosetotale.org/event. We also have a free meetup at the Simple Kitchen Friday, July 19th, also in Toronto. We'll have grass-fed burgers and other paleo/keto/sapien options there for purchase, as well as wine and beer. RSVP at the same place, nosetotale.org/event. Comment or message me on social media if you'd like to have a meetup in your city. A few other quick things. Please support this show on Patreon at patreon.com/peakhuman. I really need your support to keep this podcast ad-free. You'll get the extended show notes, which are super information-packed, and an invite to the private Slack group. You can still pre-order the film and get the Eat Meat shirts and other great perks on Indiegogo. You can link there from foodlies.org. And last but not least, we have my grass-finished meat company, Nose to Tail. Don't need to talk about this because Alyse made her own advertisement at the end. We never talked about this beforehand, I promise. So here it is, the wonderful reformed vegan celebrity, Alyse Parker. Okay, Alyse, how are you doing today?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
Oh, I am great. Now that I'm talking to you, we got a chance to meet in Austin. I always like to give a little context. I'm in Austin at the PaleoFX with Christy, and she sees you over there. She's like, that's Alyse, like RawAlignment. She has like 750,000 YouTube subscribers. Like I used to watch her growing up. Like you're a big YouTube influencer. You're like a vegan YouTube influencer. Christy, who people may know from my company Sapien, followed you. Like she had her whole vegan journey and was following you. And then we saw you talking to Sean Baker, which is also hilarious because he's a giant man. And you are not a giant person.
No.
So that was really cool. So why did you even go to that conference? You were a vegan YouTube personality.
Yeah. So at the time I went to PaleoFX, gosh, I guess it was how many months into not being vegan? It was a while, like at least 6 months. And it was a new world for me to be at that event. It was interesting because normally like at some conferences and events like that, I would be going to like a vegan event and like so many people would recognize me. And I just felt like this like little like newbie in this big world that I had yet to explore. But I really just wanted to go and kind of meet new people, network a little bit, soak up some new information. And yeah, honestly, that was the most of it. I just wanted to make some new friends in the paleo, keto, carnivore realm.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess it's a whole new world. So it's good that I like that you had this drive to just jump in and meet some new people and kind of you have a new identity. So yeah, we're going to get into all this. Yeah, it was really cool we got to hang out at Barton Springs too and got to talk a little bit. So we have some things in common. Hawaii is one of them.
Hawaii.
So yeah, why don't you Hawaii represent. Yeah, give us some context. Like where did you start? When did you move to Hawaii? Where are you from originally? And how did you start this vegan path?
Okay, cool. I'm going to try and keep it as short and simple as possible. But honestly, it's kind of a funny all over the place story. So yeah, I grew up in Connecticut. I went to school down in Georgia, and I ended up dropping out of school about 8 months before graduating and moved to Hawaii. I was just like, I need to change a pace. I want to do things differently. I want to, at that time, I was eating raw vegan. So I was like, I want to be where the fruit is all year round. I want to be in the warmth and the sun. And so I dropped out. I sold all my belongings. I moved to Hawaii and I lived on a raw vegan fruit farm for a few months, which I was basically like working on the land, gardening in exchange for having a place to stay and eating the fruit from the land. And then I moved into a van and kind of traveled around the island. And so I was on and off raw vegan and vegan for about 4.5 years. And then about a year and a half ago, I noticed that my health started to decline. And the first few symptoms that I experienced seemed kind of like allergies to me. I didn't really know what was going on, but I was just like sniffly and sneezy. It was kind of like I was always sick. I was always like sick with a cold or like crazy allergies. And I didn't know exactly what it was. I thought maybe it was some of the food that I was eating. Maybe it was my environment. For those who don't know, Hawaii is a very humid place in parts of the island, and a lot of my friends' homes had mold in them. And so I thought maybe I'm like sensitive to the environment. And so then I go and I hike part of the Appalachian Trail. I hiked half of the Appalachian Trail, totally vegan, eating a lot of like kind of vegan junk food just because I needed as many calories as I could get. And then I went back to
And just to
Hawaii.
be portable, I guess, too.
And just to be portable. Yeah, like the higher the calories, the junkier the food, the better, really, when hiking. So I moved back to Hawaii. I started to kind of eat raw again and started to eat higher fat vegan. And before, it was always high carb. I was eating like high amounts of fruit and low amounts of fat. And so when I got off of the trail, it seemed like something had changed in my body. My body was like desperately wanting healthy fats and like dark leafy greens. And I think I was clearly deficient in quite a few things at that time getting off of the trail, but I didn't get any blood work done. I didn't know like where to start with that. And so I moved into this new home in Hawaii and I started to feel really, really sick within a few months of living there. And I discovered that there was toxic mold, black mold in that house. And so I lived there for about 8 months and my health just kind of deteriorated more and more. At the end, when I was living there and towards the end of my vegan journey, my main symptoms were extreme brain fog, fatigue, headache, sinus congestion. I was pretty much always congested unless my heart rate was up, unless I was moving. I started to lose my memory. I had like complete appetite loss. I would get until like 6 p.m. and then realize I hadn't eaten anything because the thought of food just kind of made me sick. So I was not in a good place towards the end of all of that. And I ended up moving away from Hawaii because I knew my environment was one of the things that was making me sick. And so I went on this like mold detox protocol and started incorporating a lot of supplements and just cutting out so many different foods that I was sensitive to. And I started to feel better. I felt a bit of mental clarity. I was able to get rid of my sinus congestion, which was massive for me because like what I do for a career is I talk, I make videos, and it was nice to be able to breathe again. But after about 8 months into that protocol, I felt like there was a ceiling above me. Like I still wasn't able to articulate myself and think as clearly and function as clearly as I was before all of this happened. Like when I first got on YouTube about 5 years ago, I felt so clear-minded. I felt like I could communicate so easily. I used to make like one take videos and not edit anything. And I wasn't at that place anymore, even though I was feeling much better.
So yeah, you're talking about before you were vegan, you were feeling great.
In the beginning
or
of
right when you started.
Yeah, right when I started.
Yeah,
I was like, I feel clear, I can talk, I can communicate, all that. And then towards the end, I was like on this vegan mold whatever protocol. And I was like, I'm still not where I was before. What the heck? And I've just always been so passionate about health. For me, there was like a little phase where I was definitely passionate about the ethical side, the environmental side. But for me, I went vegan for health and I left vegan for health. And Yeah, so I had a friend who had actually gone from vegan to carnivore. He did a 40-day carnivore experiment and his health turned around, and he was sharing all of this information with me, and I was so confused. I was like, "Wait, how can anything other than vegan be healthy?" I was
You're
so
taught that meat is poison. It like putrefies in your body and causes everything wrong in the world, right?
literally 100%. And so it was just like a big question mark for me. But at the same time, I knew that I was suffering and I wanted to feel better. So eventually I got to a point where I just decided I'm going to give it like a 1 week trial period. I'm just going to try to eat carnivore. And I've always kind of been an extremist. So I wasn't like, let me try and like eat a piece of meat.
Sounds
I'm
like
like,
it.
let me
Yeah.
just, let me just go all in and see what happens. I had about how many ounces? Maybe like 8 ounces of salmon one night, and
Mhm.
I woke up the next morning and felt the most mentally clear I had literally in years,
Wow.
and that was the turning point for me. I was like, "Okay, there's something to this. There's no reason why I would have felt significantly better and more clear-minded if there wasn't something to this." So, that is where things changed for me.
That's so awesome. And so like that day you just started going almost all animal based?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I left out a little part of the story just because I wanted to keep it short and
Yeah,
concise,
yeah, yeah.
but
We can jump back in. I have some more questions about
okay.
that journey.
Okay, cool. So, yeah, so I guess my rock bottom, like right before I decided to try that salmon, was I had taken a trip back to Hawaii to visit some friends. And during that trip, it was like all of my symptoms came back full force. And so clearly there's some dynamic between like food and my environment. It's not just one or the other. They both have played a role for me. And I've been learning that more and more as time goes on. So yeah, I went back to Hawaii. I felt just, oh my gosh, like 10 times more sick, just the way that I felt right before I left the island. And so I came back to Colorado and was just like, I don't want to do this again. Like, I don't want to feel like this. I don't want to be so mentally blocked and foggy and not be able to like really live life and function
Mhm.
properly. And so it was in that like darker place of surrender where I was just like, you know what? I'm willing to put everything that I thought I knew aside and just like run this experiment.
Yeah, that's awesome. It feels like sometimes that happens when it comes down to this moment of desperation is when big changes need to be made. But
For
I guess
sure.
that's a good thing.
Yes, it's a blessing in disguise.
Well, how did you get into this high fat? That's interesting to me because it sounds like you weren't like, oh, I'm going to go keto, or you did a lot of research per se. You just listened
Yeah.
to your body more.
Yes, yeah, it was a lot of listening to my body. I was so, like, hardcore in the high carb world, for a few years, and I think, honestly, when I was on the trail eating such junk food, my body was not handling it well, and I think I was clearly becoming deficient in some things. Granted, I don't have tests to actually show that, but yeah, it was all very intuitive for me. I wasn't intentionally going keto. Honestly, I don't think I even knew what keto was at that
Yeah.
time. I was just like, all I want is nuts and seeds and avocados and greens. Like, that's it.
Mhm.
And so honestly, that's, like, about what I ate for a long time, which probably just added to all of the struggle, but yeah.
Well, it sounded like, I mean, it sounded like it helped you though.
It helped me for the time being. I think I had also developed a candida overgrowth, so in that sense, being very high fat with very low carb, it definitely helped me in that regard. It helped my congestion a little bit to not be, mixing the 2, and
Mhm.
it helped me for a while, but I think it was such an extended period of time, about like a year that I was eating that way, that it just didn't feel sustainable in the long run.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you just were still missing the animal foods, which we know have way more vitamins and minerals that plant foods don't have,
I
and
think
that
yeah, I think I was so unaware that that was even a thing. Like, my mind was so far past that based on all of the things I'm, like, doing air quotes right now, all the things I learned as a vegan. I had no idea that that's potentially something that I was missing, but then my body's reaction and my mind's reaction as soon as I incorporated those things back into my diet was just, like, very, very telling that that was
it's
certainly a thing.
Well, yeah, that's the DHA. You got this bioavailable DHA, this omega-3 from the salmon that your brain needs. I mean,
Right.
another famous actress said the same thing, right? I don't know, was it
Oh
Anne
yeah, Anne
Hathaway or
Hathaway.
something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your brain needs it. That's why it's really scary when people who are pregnant women try to be vegan or they raise their kids vegan. It's like you need this DHA for your brain to work. It's a different form of omega-3 if you're getting them from flax seeds or whatever else you're trying to get them from. And
Right.
yeah,
Well,
so I
one
think
thing
a lot of, yeah.
I was gonna say one thing I find interesting is that like I was taking a lot of supplements. Like I was dosed up on almost all the things I could possibly
Mm,
think of for that time that I left Hawaii before I started eating meat, fish, and eggs again. And what I just find interesting is supplements only get you so far, or at least in my personal experience, like eating the actual thing that is the source is just so different than taking a
that's
supplement every single day.
That's so important. And yes, that was just your story, but I've heard it a million times. I
Mhm.
believe in it. There's research around it. There's a lot. So a lot of vegans just think that they can supplement their way out of it. I don't know. I'm supposed to be this guy who's like really unbiased and saying, "Oh, any diet is great, do whatever you want." But for a strict vegan diet, I just personally don't believe in it. And I don't really, people can do whatever they want. I just really think it's a bad idea, and it's people don't know enough about the consequences. It seems like there's so many stories like yours where people have such terrible downsides, and then I mean, I do hear some people who say they're thriving on it,
What I've
but
noticed is that there are some trends with the individuals who feel that they're thriving on it. One is that maybe they haven't quite reached year 4 yet. There tends to
Mhm.
be a trend with like, okay, you're hovering around year 4 and 5. That's when things start to change. Another trend is that those who actually do feel like they're functioning so, so well and thriving is they're supplementing so much. Like they cannot lay off the supplements. In fact, they're always finding new supplements to add to help them feel even better. And it's like, why do that? Why have tons and tons of supplements when you can keep it so much more simple and just eat the real food?
And natural. It's funny too because a lot of these people are this natural living people and believe in whole foods, and it's so opposite to take a million supplements, it seems.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point that kind of pops in at that point in the conversation and like in people's experiences is just the ethics and their thoughts on that. And that's something I've learned a little bit about since I have changed my diet is like, what's the actual impact of a plant-based diet on the environment? And I don't know. There's just, there's so many things to dive into. But for me, I like to just keep it as simple as like, I went vegan for my health and I left for my health.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people have that path is they go for health and then they kind of buy into all
Yeah.
this dogma around and it makes sense too because it reinforces your decision. You're like, oh yeah, I'm doing it for the animals,
Right.
right? It's this great scapegoat that helps you keep you in line. It helps make you think you're morally superior. That it makes you feel like you're part of this tribe and that you're doing the right thing and everyone else is doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I did a long podcast with Leah Keith, who is a longtime vegan and still believes in a lot of these principles.
Mm.
But she's realized that they were wrong. The vegan idea of them were wrong.
Mhm.
So yeah, tell me more. So do people in the vegan community, they just believe that all animals, eating any animal is murder. Anything to do with animal agriculture is terrible. Everyone who eats an animal is a bad person. Just tell me more. What
Mhm.
what goes on?
Yeah, what goes on? Well, okay. I'll keep it at a very simple level because honestly, I as much as I have a presence on social media, I've never been one to really like dive hardcore into like what everyone's doing, what everyone's sharing, reading all the books, listening to all the different doctors. Like it's just been more of an intuitive journey for me. And,
Mm,
there are people out there who are totally up in everyone else's videos and journeys and have a better idea on like what the community as a whole feels and thinks. For me, what I noticed was one, there's a spectrum. There are people
mm,
who do feel that consuming any animal or animal product is murder, is the wrong thing to do, and that animal did not want to die. That's one end of the spectrum. And there's like no questioning, no alternative. And then the other end of the spectrum is probably vegan, who is actually in belief and comfortable with the fact that it actually is humane to raise your own animals on a farm. And I would say those are probably the two ends of the spectrum, and people fall somewhere in between. But of course, the loudest ones are the ones who are on the first end of the spectrum.
Yeah, yeah. And then the people who understand that it can be moral, it can be done right, you can raise animals correctly, they just choose to not eat that because they just say, well, I can eat a good diet without killing an animal, so I'm going to choose that.
Right. Like I
Right?
can
That's
feel
kind of what I
healthy
gather.
and I can function well without that. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think we probably both agree that you may feel good temporarily. I just don't buy that premise. Like a lot of people, they say that, and I just don't buy it because you're supplementing to the gills, and maybe it's not going to work after the 4-year mark.
Right. And I think a lot of people don't know that. And that's why, honestly, as wild and crazy as this whole like ex-vegan movement thing has been in the past 6 months or so, I think it's really powerful for everybody who is a new vegan to see that there's this trend. And what's so interesting is that myself and a lot of my friends who are these like bigger YouTubers who have changed their diet, is that it all happened around the same time. And none of us
Hmm.
came out about it until about 6 months or more after our journey of switching our diet. And it's just interesting that it was about the 4 or 5 year mark for all of us that things started to change, that none of us knew that each other were going through that behind the scenes,
Mm.
but it was at the same time. And so I think that is really interesting and could be powerful and helpful for people to see that there is this trend around this time period. And obviously, like everybody's situation is different. Maybe somebody's going to go 10 years before noticing anything major. But I think it's just important for people to know when diving into this diet, there is the potential for things to start going wrong. And I think in my personal experience and a lot of people that I know, there was no understanding of that. It was more of this vibe of like, I'm vegan, I'm superhuman, like I don't get sick anymore. Like these are all the perks. And everyone was kind of just sweeping the poor digestion and like brain fog under the rug and any other symptoms
Mm.
that people got. Like I know a lot of women experienced hair loss, like their hair and their nails were just not as healthy. I
Yeah.
thankfully wasn't one, but I think a lot of people just pushed it under the rug because there wasn't an open dialogue about it. And so I feel like that's kind of what this whole change and movement is all about.
Yeah, I'm glad that it's happening, and that's why I wanted to have you on. I want to hear some of these stories and let people know that it's not all fun and games and rainbows and pretty, plates. There's real ramifications of this. And I think someone once said it was like trying to execute the most crazy high dive with degree of difficulty 10.0, trying to do a vegan diet, right? It's
Mm,
like it's possible, but you have to be like a food scientist
mm,
and know everything you're doing and get all the right ratios and this and that, and that people just can't pull it off. So I think, yeah, do it if you want. If you can pull it off, then maybe you'll do fine, or maybe your body type or your ancestry can allow you to do it.
yeah.
But for the most part, people are just gonna hit a wall. I don't know.
Well,
It's just
what's
kind of bummer.
interesting is that I feel like there's also a trend with individuals who are coming from kind of like this intense, unhealthy standard American diet and then going vegan. And it's like
Oh, of course, yeah.
that contrast literally makes you feel like I've done the best thing in the world for myself. And like this is the optimal diet. And no matter how many more calories you need to eat in a vegan diet or how much you need to plug into Chronometer or any of these apps to like track all of your food, like there's this idea of I have just made the change from the wrong diet to the right diet. And I think that sticks with people. And like I said in the very beginning, like when my friend was telling me all of these improvements that he was experiencing, I was literally so confused because I too believed that I was already eating the most ideal diet. Like it couldn't have been my food that was contributing and making me feel sick or not allowing me to heal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that honeymoon phase is huge, and then also people not connecting what you're eating and then how you're feeling, because most people, we don't think about that in the modern world. It's not talked about. Doctors don't talk about it. They're not trained about it.
Yeah.
This is the most important thing. I mean,
Yeah.
I never thought about it either, right? Before I started getting into this, it's not like, oh, I'm feeling bad today. Maybe it's because what I ate. You don't track it. It's like, oh wait, I'm like growing up, like I ate McDonald's and now I don't feel great. You don't really tie those together.
Yeah, and I think another thing too is in the vegan realm, at least a lot of the people I was spending time with and myself, there was actually this trend of being like very hyper aware and very sensitive to things and almost like developing an increased sensitivity to food. So like all of a sudden your digestion just like can't handle these 5 foods anymore. And then like your diet just gets more and more narrow. And that's why there is such a trend with juicing and eating all raw, eating only fruit, mono mealing, like all of these things that are considered very extreme. It's like not many people were doing that for fun. A lot of people were doing that to find digestive relief or to find relief with their mental clarity or to like experience a heightened level of health. And it's like there was just this ongoing pursuit of feeling better and better. And I think nobody's paying attention to that. Like, I don't know. Does that make
It was
sense?
getting harder. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it was getting harder and harder. You're going down this
Right.
rabbit hole and trying so hard to feel good again.
Right.
And
But at
yeah,
the same time, there's also this belief of like, no, I feel good. This is the best diet. I'm so healthy. And so like nobody's looking at like the elephant in the room that like everyone is on this pursuit still, yet we're all considering our diet to be the healthiest ever and like encouraging others to eat that way. It's just very interesting.
well, I started my journey, public journey, trying to be as open as possible. And if you never go down just one route or have one way of thinking, then you're never going to get trapped. And
Mm,
so my only kind of steadfast belief is I just do not believe that a complete vegan diet is species appropriate for humans. And I don't think
mm.
it's optimal. Right. So that's the
So
only thing. That's the only, other than that, you can be pescatarian, you can have vegan plus 1 egg a week. You can do anything you want. And I think it can be healthy. Any
so
diet plan. Yeah.
where do you stand then with a carnivore diet?
Carnivore is part of that framework. I embrace the carnivore diet. I think of it more as a tool though. I feel like people can get in the same kind of problems as a vegan diet
Mhm.
where you have this honeymoon phase with a carnivore diet and you feel amazing and everything is good and all this, but maybe you're not doing it correctly as well. Maybe you're developing deficiencies because
Mhm.
you're only eating muscle meats, right? You're not doing a nose to tail approach. You're not getting enough glycine compared to methionine. Like you're not eating bone marrow. You're not eating the liver.
Mhm.
So, and people can get dogmatic about the carnivore diet too. People,
Mhm.
will like call me out. I'm like, I have like a little bit of kimchi on my plate in a photo, and they're like, "Oh, you're such a joke. Like, why do you have this on your plate?"
Wow.
That kind of thing. So, yeah, either extreme is too much, and I think that these are kind of tools. Like anything's a tool. Like keto is a tool,
Right.
right? Like I mostly am fat adapted and I use it, I have fat metabolism, but I've never said we should be doing keto and that everyone should do it or
Mhm.
it's like, let's do it. I do it during the week. Say I'll use this during the week. And then on the weekends, I loosen up and
Mhm.
I can eat like a normal person,
Mhm.
which isn't normal really. I should say, eat like an average American sometimes. If
Yeah.
I'm, at an event, I'll eat what's put in front of me and I
Yeah.
enjoy it and I'm
Yeah.
fine. So that's kind of my views. Yes, that we can do all ends of the spectrum. Just don't get really dogmatic and crazy about it.
Right.
Realize that all these things are just kind of tools and when you need them. And yeah, it's like, oh, if you need to lose 100 pounds, then yeah, do carnivore
Mhm.
100%. Yeah.
What's interesting about everything you just said is like I like mentally and emotionally agree with that outlook on diet and
Hmm.
on food. And I feel that that's ideal to really work with your body, but to have this flexibility to like to live this life experience and to be flexible in that way. But what's interesting for me where I'm at right now is that my body is not as healthy as it could be. And so what I mean by
Mm.
that is I am so hypersensitive to certain foods that I'm borderline like in a place where I have to be eating carnivore. And even just in the past few days, I've been noticing that when I have all meat meals and less fish and eggs, I'm feeling even better. And when I have anything that's off of that, my body's so sensitive. And so, although everything you just shared is like my goal of where I want to get to, it's so interesting being in like the public eye and sharing, like, listen, I'm literally eating the way that my body, the only way that my
Hmm.
body can handle right now. And I don't necessarily want it to be this way, but people are still looking at me like, you're an extremist. Like, why are you going to that end of the spectrum? And it's like, this is literally what's getting me through the day. And I don't believe that this is the healthiest way to eat long term. And I know that there's some deeper underlying things to look into and that I am looking into. But it's so interesting from the outside perspective, being perceived as like, I'm doing this on purpose. And it's not necessarily like that.
Yeah, I remember you told me when we were hanging out at the river in Austin, it's like, I'm just listening to my body. This is like, my body just needs this. I didn't want to be carnivore, but it just happens because this is what's working.
Yeah.
And no, I think that this is a tool. It's different time periods in your life require different things, right? And you are on this healing journey and there's no problem. I mean, I work with a doctor and do health coaching and see patients and stuff. And yeah, I mean, you can do this kind of thing for years, right? You can do, maybe it takes that long to heal yourself and then you can start adding some other foods in. Maybe it takes a few months. It's fine. Okay, so you talked about other people in the space. I think that's really interesting. Is how is it being a personality and these other people, because your livelihood kind of depends on this type of diet. So I know a lot of people call out some people for, doing that or not being public with their health conditions until it's too late.
Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. I mean, I started kind of moving away from focusing on food on my YouTube channel and social media and everything probably about a year and a half before I transitioned my diet. And I would still share like what I eat videos, but it wasn't a main focus of what I was sharing. And
that's good. Well, that's
I
lucky.
guess it's lucky, but like at the same time, I guess there were so many individuals who found my channel when I was focusing on food. And so it's kind of the situation where it's like you have that friend from high school and like you used to party hard together and you go and visit that friend like 10 years later and they're like, so maybe they're sober. They're not even partying at all, but you still see them in that same light. So I think that's kind of the situation that I was in, was even though I had shifted away, there were still so many people who were like, you are this vegan YouTuber. And in their eyes, like I was the one who inspired them to eat vegan. I was the one who, whatever, they liked watching my food videos more than any of the others, even though there were so many other videos. So it was an interesting situation. And it's also funny because there's no way to win. There's literally no way to appeal to absolutely everybody. Like on one side of the spectrum, there will be people who are like, we're so glad that you waited to tell us because like you should be responsible for what you're saying and you shouldn't be telling anyone something that you don't know for sure is correct. And then there's one end of the spectrum where it's like, you should tell us every single thing, like as soon as you're going through it. And the fact that you kept it for even like a day is not acceptable. There's really no place to win in that regard. I've really just tried to keep faith and trust that there are other reasons why people have tuned into my channel and just kind of ride out the whole wave and whole season of everything.
Yeah, no, I think you did fine. Yeah, you don't know. You have to see. Everything's an experiment. I do experiments and I don't talk about it. I want to see what happens first.
Yeah.
And you have to kind of know. So yeah, I don't blame you at all. I don't know. Maybe if some other people, I know your friends, I think you mentioned you're friends with Ravana. I don't know if she did anything wrong either, but I mean, if I'd say it would be wrong if you just, purposely tried to continue saying something you didn't believe in to make money.
Right. I think there's this whole general assumption that that was the case for myself or for my friends. And it's like, it's honestly just pure assumption because just none of us had that in mind. None of us were trying to be deliberately like whatever. We were honestly all in a place of our health is suffering. We have no idea what's happening. We're about to go back on our values and way of eating that for like 4 years. And we're confused and we're going to do our best to like do this in privacy until we feel a little bit more certain that this is a good decision. That
makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Kind of want to go back to some things. I feel like part of veganism, I was also talking to Christy, again, we're in Austin with, she was saying that I think veganism a lot of times is a way to mask a eating disorder. That's what she thought in a way. Let me know if you agree with this. But a lot of these young women become vegan, right? Why is it always the young women? Maybe it's like unladylike to order steak. Or is there some kind of thing about women not eating meat, right? It's ladylike to order salad. So there's one thing of that. There's also that you go to an event and maybe you see all this kind of unhealthy food that you don't want to eat, because our society is just based around women always having to care about their weight and right and their appearance. And so if you don't want to eat like a cheeseburger at a barbecue, you can just say, oh, I'm vegan, like I can't eat that. So it's a way to only eat the safe food. I think you mentioned before, it's like these are the safe foods, these are the low calorie foods. Is there something around that?
I'm sure there's definitely a trend around that. I don't think that's necessarily everybody's situation, but I do know that for me, one of the like perks of being vegan was that I could eat large quantities of food and it was like so much lower in calories. So for me, I was dealing with overeating when I first went vegan. And the fact that I could like basically continue with that habit of overeating, it was like an easier transition for me where I was eating like
Mm.
healthier food. Like no longer was I overeating chocolate, I was overeating salad.
Yeah.
And so it definitely went hand in hand for me. And I know for a lot of other people it did as well. But I think that people were able to find some sort of like healthy weight and healthier mindset with it. But I do feel there is this restriction. And when other people would ask me like, oh, do you feel restricted as a vegan? I would never say yes. Like I never felt genuinely restricted because I was able to eat so much food for the same amount of calories, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I'm sure it's something that a lot of women are conscious of, and I'm sure it's something that a lot of women are just not conscious of. But 100% what you said about it not being ladylike to like eat the burger or to eat the steak when you're like out to a restaurant or at a party or whatever. I 100% agree with that. I think there's this whole vibe and I don't know, like this culture around what the ladies are supposed to be eating.
Mhm.
And I don't know where that started. And I'm not even crystal clear on like what that's being conditioned by, but there's definitely something to that.
Yeah, and it's universal. A lot of people I talk to agree with this, and even my cousins like, I don't like red meat. I'm like, are you sure you don't like red meat, or you just been conditioned to not like red meat?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm kind of on a mission to change that. And Christy's trying to do that. Adele, who's in the film as sort of her transformation story of food lies, with her for months and months, and she's trying to be more public about it, embracing red meat. It's like, hey, why not? And Michaela Peterson too.
Yeah.
We're gonna put her in the film as well, and part of her message is don't be afraid to eat a steak.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. And I think Michaela does an amazing job at it. And she's kind of in a position where like that's what she has to eat. So it's easier maybe for her to share that message. But it's so good that she is and anyone else is too. And I don't know. I suppose that it could come from like what you were sharing is that there is this pressure to like have women be skinnier or whatever to lose weight.
Hmm.
And them feeling like the way to do so is eating salad, is eating vegetables, is eating fruit because they are lower calorie, but they're missing out on all the good
Well,
stuff.
yeah. This is another thing that I talk about is there's completely different dietary strategies that work, right?
Right.
You can go low fat, low calorie and all this and lose weight, or you could go high fat and high meat and lose weight.
Mhm.
I want to popularize that notion that you just don't want to be stuck in the middle.
Yes.
And it makes sense, right? It makes sense because when they start eating a lot of meat, well, what else are they eating with it, right? You're eating like a bun or like
Right.
potatoes. And so they end up gaining weight. And so I could see how it's like, oh, well, this is not good. I'm eating the meat. But just try it without all the
Yeah.
empty carbs.
Yeah, I think that that was one of my things when I first transitioned and my friend was saying like, "I'm feeling so much better." And I'm like, I'm picturing like a greasy fast food burger meat and like what that does to your body and your health versus like just straight up steak. And I think I learned over the past few months that that is an entirely different experience for your body and for your mind. Yeah, I think that's important is to like change the idea of what is healthy and what is not. That is the truth, is that when you're eating the burger, there's so much other junk that's coming along with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's talk more about your transition and then how you're feeling before and then how you're feeling after. Like what kind of you mentioned, like brain fog and mental clarity and some digestive issues, but we did a little testimonial with you and you even mentioned that you had like no sex drive for that whole time too.
Yeah, I was just not in a good place, honestly. I was struggling in so many different ways. I was struggling with my brain was the main thing, my brain and congestion. I think when I started to eat high fat and low carb is when my digestion got way better. Yeah, I think I was perhaps eating more fat than I thought I was when I was trying to do high carb, and like something just wasn't working there for me with the higher carb, lower fat lifestyle. And so my digestion was pretty much good once I went high fat for that last year. I also wasn't eating too much food because I was struggling with that loss of appetite and all of that. And another like really sad like part of it was that when I was congested, I wasn't really interested in eating because I like literally couldn't breathe. You know, when you like have
Mm.
a clogged nose and you go to eat
And you
something.
can't really taste the food if you
Yeah, you
can't
can't
breathe.
taste it, you can't breathe. It's like I had to take a
Yeah.
bite and then, like, gasp for air. It was, like, not a funny
Mm.
experience, and so I know that that in itself, literally eating less food helped my digestion, but once I made the switch, I immediately had more mental clarity, and it's so funny, I get so much shit online for, like, giving off the idea that I was cured overnight, and I never claimed to be cured overnight. Like, I'm still struggling with things now, but it was the immediate, like, enhancement in so many different ways. So,
Mm.
overnight, I was no longer congested. I had so much more mental clarity and was able to articulate myself better. I had a sex drive again. My digestion was amazing when I started to eat carnivore, like a few days and few weeks in. I didn't have any keto flu. I didn't have any crazy negative symptoms. And I think the reason why was because I was eating so high fat vegan
Mm, yeah.
before making that transition that I was lucky enough to not have any negative side effects.
That's great. Yeah, that was a lucky find you had. Have you told people like officially? Like I've checked out your Instagram a little bit, and I didn't really see anything about food. Are you so you're still kind of not talking about food, and like, are you going to start talking about your switch?
So I shared it on YouTube, and that's kind of where everything went down. Yeah, I guess I didn't even make an official post about it on Instagram. I just wasn't really focused on food on Instagram. Like my captions were about other things for so long that it didn't even feel necessary, I guess, because that's not what my page was about for like a
Mm.
while. But yeah, people definitely know about it. And I'm not
Did you lose a
sure.
lot of followers? Like you had like 750,000 on
Yeah, I
YouTube
think
or
I
something?
lost
That's
about
crazy.
30 to 35,000 people.
Oh, that's not that many.
Not too
That's
bad. But
yeah, no, that's
honestly,
fine.
I just see it as like a cleanse. Like if those individuals are not interested in what I have to share, there's so many other people they can tune into. I don't want anyone to tune in if it doesn't resonate with them. And yeah, I don't see it as a negative thing, even though it's crazy to think about that many people. But if they no longer resonate and they just wanted the vegan content and all of that, then that's fine. As far as my focus on food moving forward, I think I definitely want to continue sharing my journey with all of this because it's interesting and I just never would have guessed that I'm in the spot I'm in. And I just want others to feel like if they reach a point where their health where they have to change things and they're just like unsure what's going on, I want them to feel supported. And so right now I'm kind of like so still figuring it out, and I want other people to see that it's okay to not have it all figured out and to just do the best we can. So I'm going to keep sharing my journey, but I probably will not be sharing like informative videos, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, too, I mean, you're not like a nutrition expert
Right.
anyway. You don't care about studying all this stuff per
Right.
se. So, but have people reached out to you? Are you kind of helping people along? Or I know your friends, the guy who went carnivore kind of showed you the way in a way.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a lot of people messaging, just sharing that like I gave them permission to just try animal products again. And a lot of them have said they're feeling significantly better. I haven't really been like intimately coaching or like talking to anyone that much about it. I'll just like share encouraging words and like encourage them to like honor themselves and what they're feeling. I'm trying not to like encourage people to follow in my steps, but more so like do what feels right for them. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of change and a lot of progression in other people's lives that aligns with my story, and I'm happy for them. yeah, a lot of other people who were watching my videos for a long time who were just struggling with their health and didn't really know that going back was an option. Kind of like I shared, I didn't know that it was even a healthier option. And so I think people hearing my story, they realized that that was an option.
That's great. I think, speaking of Sean Baker again, I think he provided that same service to the world as going on Joe Rogan. When he did, even for me, it gave me permission to be like,
Yeah.
maybe you could eat all meat. It kind of woke people up.
Yeah.
The world. I know a lot of people were doing carnivore, way before him, but I think sometimes we need that kind of mental switch where you're just like, oh, let's question things. Let's look at different ways to do things.
Yeah, I think sometimes we need to see it happening and being successful, or at least helping somebody before we can even wrap our head around doing that ourselves.
Yeah. Well, I do like your message on Instagram from what I have seen. What are your kind of main messages? Like it's all about positivity, and I guess there's a lot more to life than food.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I guess I started changing my main focus a few years ago. And now what I am helping talk about and helping others with is kind of quieting the noise of the external world and just allowing ourselves to tune into what feels right for us. I think in this whole social media era, it's so easy to just like scroll and scroll and scroll and compare ourselves to other people and like let that get the best of us and see like how far other people have come and like yeah, just compare ourselves and feel inadequate, like we're not enough, like we can't do what we want to do, and just quieting all of that down, stepping away from that and using certain tools and strategies to do so, and being able to tune into what really feels right for us, what our dreams are, and then taking the steps to make that happen. So that's more of my current message. Yeah, that just feels like very fulfilling and meaningful and aligned for me versus food at this point in time. And I'm still so passionate about food. And I know it plays such a big role in our bodies functioning. And so it's still an aspect of what I share, but just not the main focus anymore.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I think people in this modern age that they kind of look up to certain personalities and they really are inspired by them, and that your posts like matter to them. So I kind of like some of these people. I've seen it all different kinds of people do these type of content. So you're in San Diego now.
I
We can,
am.
how's that going?
It's really, really awesome to be here. It definitely feels like probably will be a home base for a little while.
Yeah, the West Coast is where it's at.
The West Coast is
So
where it's at.
that's great. So yeah, just kind of wrapping it up here. We were talking about nose to tail eating, and I was telling you about my meat company. Now you're in San Diego. I can send you a box.
100%. I have been wanting to ask about it. And yeah, I'm so excited to try it out. I'm out here in this new area and I'm like, where do I get my meat from? Like, where do I get everything from? And I just feel like a little like noob all over again. It's like when I first transitioned my diet, I kind of like learned the local areas. And now that I moved somewhere new, I'm like, oh, I have to go through this all again. So
Yeah.
it's so easy and sweet to see what you have put together.
Great. Well, have you had liver before?
Oh my gosh, I have had raw liver once and cooked liver once. And yeah, you're going to have to share some tips and tricks for me because it's not glorious.
Well, I think people would be interested, figuring out ways to do it, because I know a lot of people have trouble with it, and I had trouble with it until recently. But one of the things we sell is the organ meats mixed into the ground beef. And so I think that's going to be the ticket. So yeah, it has kidney and heart and liver, and you don't really taste it. I mean, there's a light version too. So
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. So do you only have one box option or are there different like sizes? Like tell me the whole rundown.
yeah, there's difference. It's mainly we have the small box and the big box, and then we have different animals. We have lamb, and there's chicken, and there's pork. Pork's kind of out of stock right now, but they're all done really well, sustainable, raised, all, no corn, wheat, soy, no GMOs, like all the good things. So you can
Awesome.
also do a la carte. I don't know this. We didn't plan this. This is sound like we're like doing an ad right now. And you're
No,
like,
I'm honestly
tell me
just
more.
like, I'm so curious.
We definitely did not plan this, but I will send you a box. And I think it would be great if you had your own box too one day, where you're like, oh, these are my favorite things. And
That would be insane.
Yeah.
We'll have to
So
progress to that.
yeah, you got to try them out. But yeah, we have bone broth, we have sausage. So here's the
Wow.
thing. I used to think that sausage was gross, or people had this bad image of sausage
Yeah.
because it had the bits and pieces in it. You're like, oh yeah, that's like the bad part of the animal. And then
Yeah.
I realized, oh wait, this is the whole animal. There is no bad part of the animal. This is good. It's actually a
Yeah.
benefit because you're getting some of the different parts and different nutrients and things that our ancestors got.
Yeah. Well, I
So
love that you kind of grind and combine it all together. And I'm sure that that is like the easiest way to just consume all the things and not have to worry about like getting it down and like not enjoying it. And yeah, I'm sure there's like not healthy sausages out there, but what you are putting together is
yeah,
like
yeah.
where it's at for sure.
Yeah, I'm not saying go get some hot dogs from the convenience store,
Yeah.
but I am also saying this is another thing that's controversial that I try to talk about. If your alternative is to eating like processed foods or like ramen noodles or something like that, I would say eat a pack of hot dogs from a 7-Eleven.
Wow.
Yeah, let it be known. And I have
Let it
doctors
be
that agree
known,
with me.
Brian sports human
No,
topic.
doctors agree with me. There's Dr. Eric Westman, who's, a veteran in the space, a well-respected guy. He works with a lot of low-income people in something like North Carolina. He's like, hey, get what you can afford, eat a pack of burgers for,
So you're saying like
99.
the lowest quality meat is better than packaged like pasta
Yeah,
type of thing.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Do the best you can though. Obviously, support good agriculture and support local farmers and all that kind of thing.
For sure. Well, this was so good talking to you, and I'll have to update you once I'm further along in my journey. And yeah, I hope that this message finds your listeners well. And I'm excited to try your box. Super excited.
Yes.
Actually, start consuming some liver and heart and all the good things.
Let's do it.
So,
It's crazy how you actually feel different eating the full nutrient complete diet. I swear, even not just, my brand of food knows the tail, but like anything, I swear there's something in it. You kind of
yeah.
mentioned earlier when you're getting the full spectrum nutrients, you feel full.
Yeah, I was
Like it's
speaking with a
different.
friend just the other day who was telling me he recently started eating carnivore and he can notice a massive difference when he has liver and doesn't have liver. So I'm ready for that next level for sure.
All right. Get your bone broth too. All
Yeah.
right. So yeah, no, your message has been good. Thank you for coming on. With this show, my podcast, I want to get everyone's opinion. I think it's so cool that I've gotten like Professor Tim Noakes, sort of an older gentleman from South Africa, and then I have like Sean Baker, this giant guy eating all meat. And then we have Alyse,
Yeah.
this like like sort of fruitarian hippie Hawaii person.
Yes.
So I think it's very valuable, and thank you for coming on. And I think people can benefit from all these stories.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. And maybe I'll pop on again in the future with a new and improved nose to tail diet.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Maybe we could even get you in the film. We talked about that for a second at the river.
Yes, that would be dope.
All right. Well, maybe see you sometime soon. Low carb San Diego.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys.
All right. See you, Alyse.
Bye-bye.
Short and sweet. I thought it was very interesting to hear a story and wanted to include this in the audio series. Get your own grass-finished meat at nosetotale.org. Support the show on Patreon at patreon.com/peakhuman. Pre-order the film at foodlies.org. Watch highlights from the film on the Food Lies YouTube channel. Get daily content on the Food Lies Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Sign up for the newsletter on sapien.org. Get on the waiting list if you're a health coach, doctor, or other healthcare practitioner at sapien.org. Too many things. Just go to sapien.org and find all the links for these things there. Stay happy and healthy, my friends.